Today we are looking at the Straight Talk Samsung Galaxy Ace style. This is an all-new entry-level Samsung for Straight Talk. The retail price on this one is $149.99. This is a CDMA device, so Straight Talk will activate this one with either Verizon or Sprint. Now the specs on this are 1.2 dual-core processor. It's got a 5 megapixel digital camera, but it doesn't have an LED flash, as you can see. It does have a front-facing VGA camera though. Now it comes with Android 4.3, which is one of the newer Androids out there. The screen size is 4 inches measured diagonally, and the data speeds on this one are standard 3G. Now, in case you're looking at the, or you've looked at the Straight Talk website, you've seen a phone that's very similar to this, which is the Samsung Galaxy Centura. And in case you're wondering why that one is considerably cheaper than this one, and that's the fact that this is a far superior phone in terms of specs and performance. So even though they somewhat look the same, they're very similar in the style and their design. This phone is far better than the Centura. So if you're wanting something that looks nice, then I think this is the phone to get over the Centura. Now, one of the highlights on this phone, I'll say, is the design and the fact that even though it's got a 4-inch screen, it remains very compact. This is not a large phone by any means, and it's got the rounded corners and rounded back, so it fits very nice in your hand. Now the design, while again it looks exactly more or less like the Samsung Centura, which is a much older phone than this, so the design is fairly basic. It's not anything new that we haven't seen before, but I do like the fact that it's got this nice chrome bezel, which makes the phone look a lot more expensive than it really is. Now the phone is all plastic construction, as is the screen, so you don't get Gorilla Glass on this or anything. But getting back to the design, the buttons down here, these two are capacitive touch, as you can see. This middle button here is a physical push button, but it's very well designed in that it's got this nice chrome bezel on it, so it doesn't look dated. It doesn't look dated by any means. Now, another thing I like about this phone is the fact that it's got this kind of slate gray feature going around the screen, which looks very modern and sophisticated. So this phone does not look cheap or inexpensive. Now again, getting back to the size on this thing, this is a very compact phone, even though it's got the 4-inch screen. I'll go ahead and measure it for you so you can see the dimensions. On the width, we have about 2.5 inches. The height, we have about 4 3/4. And then the thickness, we have a little bit less than a half. We have it at 0.43. Now the screen, as I said, is 4 inches measured diagonally, and it comes in at about 3.98, 3.99. Now the weight on this one is approximately 4.5 ounces. And I'll go ahead and weigh it for you, which is fairly typical for a phone of this size. So it weighs 4.35 ounces to be exact. Now, as far as the Android operating system goes on this thing, it's all fairly standard. There's nothing other than the standard stuff that you get on any other Android phone. So you do get the Google Play Store, which, if you're not familiar with Straight Talk, it's not restricted in any way. You can download any free or paid apps, and this phone is more than powerful enough to run the majority of the apps on the Play Store. Also included is YouTube, And that kind of brings me to another item I want to point out on this phone, and that's the fact that the screen on this, the resolution on it, is far superior than pretty much any other phone Straight Talk has at this price range. You probably can't see it on the video, but I'll tell you that the video quality on this is excellent. Now, this video, looking at it in person, is near HD quality, and I'll go so far as to say that the screen on this phone is far superior than any other phone at this price range. Another thing I want to point out on the multimedia kind of aspect of this thing, and that's the fact that it's got excellent sound quality. The speaker is at the top, kind of next to the camera, so when you're holding it, it doesn't tend to get covered up like it does in some of the other phones. So either if you're holding it like this or like this, it still has excellent sound quality. So getting back to the Android stuff, I showed you YouTube. Of course, you also have Google Maps, which performs flawlessly on this phone. Again, the specs on this are excellent for the price, so the performance on this phone is quite good. There's no hesitation when you're zooming in and out, rotating the map or anything like that, and the same goes for pretty much any other app that you can run on this phone. One last thing I'd like to mention as far as the Android stuff on this, and I think this is kind of unique to Samsung, and that's the camera interface, which has some cool features to it, which I haven't seen on another Android. In particular, it's got this mode, which pretty much all the other newer Androids have this mode, but Samsung has this neat little interface that you can pick the various modes on the camera. And I will say that the picture quality on this thing is very good. I'll show you some pictures that I took in the backyard, which maybe you can't appreciate the quality of them. But the camera quality or the picture quality on this thing is excellent. You do get, it doesn't have an LED flash, but even in low light situations, the picture quality is still quite good. So this picture was pretty much very dark, yet if you put it in night mode, you know, it's quite clear. So again, these are some pictures I took in the backyard, and I'm very impressed with the quality of this camera. So if you want a phone with an excellent camera, then this phone is probably one of the tops on the list at this price range. So lastly, I'll show you some of the interface stuff, like the texting and whatnot, which is all pretty standard. The keyboard is fairly standard sized. It doesn't come with swipe out of the box. I'm not sure if you can download and install that or not, but there is the keyboard, which I will say that the keys are fairly small when you have it in this mode, in landscape. I'm sorry, in portrait. But if you put it in landscape, then the keys are considerably larger, making it a lot easier to text with. And then lastly, I'll just show you real quick the phone dialer, which is pretty standard and very similar to pretty much every other Android out there. So the keys on, or the icon keys on that are very large and easy to use there. So I think that about wraps it up on this phone. I will say that this is probably the best phone at this price range Straight Talk has. You will find that it's a little bit more expensive than some of the ZTE phones that they offer, and you'll also find that this one doesn't have some of the other features that the ZTE phones have. For example, the LED flash. Another thing I forgot to mention is the fact that this one doesn't have an SD card, so you will need to go out and buy one because the internal memory is only about 2 gigs or so, probably only about a gig or so of usable memory. So again, while this phone doesn't have the same feature sets as some of the other similarly priced phones, or like the ZTEs, for example, or the LGs, it is an excellent phone for the money. The screen quality is excellent. Again, probably the best screen quality that you'll find on a phone at this price range for Straight Talk. So if you're looking to upgrade to a new phone and you don't want to go with some of the more inexpensive brands, then I would recommend this phone. And don't be fooled by the fact that it looks just like the more inexpensive Centura, because this phone doesn't even compare to that. It's way more powerful, way faster, and it's just a better overall phone, even though it looks the same.